And if you drive anywhere in the county, you know this is just the tip of the iceberg. So with these situations in mind, today the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, ordering state agencies to start removing homeless encampments on state land.
California has about 1/3 of the nation's homeless population. Today's action follows a recent Supreme Court ruling that said cities can enforce bans on sleeping outside in public spaces. The governor posted this video today, putting local governments on notice.
No longer any excuses. $1 billion this state has invested to support communities to clean up these encampments. We have now no excuse with the Supreme Court decision. This executive order is about pushing that paradigm further and getting the sense of urgency that's required of local government to do their job.
Now, the reaction we're getting from both the unhoused and neighbors dealing with encampments is not exactly a ringing endorsement of Newsom's directive. Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez live in Sun Valley now with more. Christina?
Well, the first question people out here have is, if the governor wanted to do something about homelessness, why didn't he do all this when he first became governor instead of now when he's trying to get the national spotlight, as it were? Take a look. What do you think of the governor making this announcement today?
He's a whack.
It's the optics.
He's just saying that to get everyone's attention, to basically make himself look like the guy who wants to clean it all up.
Reaction to Governor Newsom's executive order directing state agencies to deal with homeless encampments. Nothing will change, say those having to deal with the encampments in front of their homes or businesses, who describe the seemingly never-ending cycle.
Since they chased everybody on the street over there, they moved here. And they're dealing drugs constantly. We call the police, tell them, hey, they're dealing drugs. Nobody comes. Nobody tows you away. If one of us parked our car here, it'd get towed away.
Nothing will change, say many of those living in tents who insist they've been waiting for promised help.
I've been on Section 8 housing for 20 years waiting. You have to wait? I don't know how, and I'm like legally blind, so I should have got it a long time ago.
Mosquitoes.
Brushing stagnant water to stop mosquito breeding or tapping into fire extinguishers for clean water.
We do bird baths, you know, we get buckets, and that's how we shower every day.
Most we talk to say the help offered hasn't materialized or doesn't fit their needs.
They kind of just threw me in a hotel room, gave me a bed, but you know, it kind of sucks that I don't get to choose my roommate.
I'm on a list that they come back and check every now and then, and they check back in with me, but so far nothing's happened.
There's been only one person that really tried helping, and unfortunately, I don't know what happened to her.
He says if politicians really did, instead of talking about doing to get elected, perhaps the long line of RVs sitting in front of his house for years now would be gone by now. And as far as the governor's order?
Just another, you know, promise that's not going to get anywhere.
You know, it's a losing battle. It's a losing battle.
And, you know, people in the tents saying if they're made to move from the tents, they'll just move into vehicles or RVs because the local government doesn't really enforce the no camping laws, and they don't really make them move. And if so, they make them move 3 or 4 feet. So as long as that happens, what they're saying is the governor can say whatever he wants. It's the local governments that are going to enforce whatever they think is right. And out here in L.A., a lot of people are not liking what they see. Live in Sun Valley, I'm Christina Gonzalez. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Christina, thank you so much. Part of the reason that the governor is doing this now and not 5 years ago is the Supreme Court just allowed him to do this about a month ago. But we want more clarity from the governor. He is not doing any interviews today, and nobody in his team doing any interviews today answering specifics about how this exactly is going to work.
The timing is interesting, and we do have more reaction. New at 6, LA County Sheriff Robert Luna says he welcomes the governor's order. He says,
yeah, that his agency is going to continue to treat unhoused members of the community in a humane way.
Those poor deputies and police officers out there, the first responders, they get called into situations that are sometimes very challenging to deal with. You've got people who are saying, hey, we want them moved. And of course, we got to remain constitutional in our practice, service-oriented, but still solve the problem.
Luna says LA County is ahead of the curve on the issue of homelessness, but he says there's much more work that remains. With more on today's executive order and the continued efforts to combat the homelessness crisis, we're joined by, this is the Mayor of Santa Monica, Phil Brock. Mayor, good to have you tonight.
Nice to be here.
When you heard this break this afternoon, or early this morning, I should say, what was your initial reaction?
Well, my initial reaction was to contact our city attorney and see what the result is. The reaction right now is it doesn't do anything in Santa Monica except help clear the I-10. So the Santa Monica Freeway embankments have homeless people on them. We have to press Caltrans sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to clear those areas. That's also where we get arson fires. This ruling, as I understand it so far, doesn't affect the streets. It doesn't affect Santa Monica beaches. It doesn't affect downtown. It only affects state of California property. So in Santa Monica, those are the Santa Monica Freeway embankments.
And with the ruling that Alex just mentioned, the Supreme Court ruling that came down about a month ago, you didn't necessarily need the governor's blessing, which it seems like that's what's happening today.
But I think that provides more impetus to get things done, to not slough off the Supreme Court ruling. We have to deal with people on our streets, and quite frankly, we're compassionate and humane in Santa Monica, but we also have to be compassionate toward our residents, toward our businesses, and it's not compassionate to let people die on Santa Monica streets.
So just to be clear on how this works, because I'm trying to understand it, so the state lands, the state will be responsible for that, or this is allowing you as the city to move into state lands and do this?
The state is responsible for state lands, and what the governor said is they will develop a policy for the state to follow, to clear lands and use the highway patrol, use Caltrans, and hopefully use homeless services as well. In Santa Monica, we are looking at the Supreme Court ruling, and it will come on our agenda on August 27th.
And so what do you want to see happen?
My position is we need to go to the maximum of the law. That doesn't mean we need to enforce it, but we have to provide our police, our public safety personnel, the opportunity to enforce it, to make sure that we are able to clear people from our streets and our beaches. And Sunday, we had a lady who has been on our beach, south end of the beach. Police had contacted her 4 times, and she refused housing. We said, we have a place right now. They will drive her to San Michelle, which is one of our homeless shelters. She refused. She said, I want to stay on the beach. Well, at that point, that may be a person who needs to be cited. If she has a tent legally in Santa Monica, we can remove her tent, and we may have to try and force her into a different living situation. We can't have our streets and our beaches just taken over every day.
Yeah, and to that example, it took 4 times.
And still nothing.
And still nothing. And so for the residents, you talked about having compassion for your residents there. You look at the promenade, which has really taken a hit since the pandemic. You see all the homeless people who will go to Santa Monica because of the beaches and the beauty of it. So when it comes to that, is there a limit? Is there, when you say you don't have to enforce it, when you tell your law enforcement that?
I would say we reached our limit several years ago. And yes, it's hurt the promenade. It's hurt resident confidence in walking our streets and feeling safe in a beautiful place. So we have to make changes. And the Supreme Court decision will help us. But frankly, I've got Metro, who drops off the end of the E-line 45 to 60 homeless people every night, with no place to go between midnight and 2 a.m. That's abominable. I can't support that.
And that's part of the challenge with this, because this could be just a whack-a-mole, right? So if you take them off of the promenade, maybe then they go to L.A. or Culver City or some other place, and then it's just moving around. We're not actually fixing the problem.
And that's been the situation. That's what I think Mayor Bass said today, that this will just move people, but not affect any real substantial change. And we need a change, and that has to come from the federal government, the state government, and county aid. Cities cannot do this by themselves. 96% approximately of our homeless people in Santa Monica are not from LA County. That goes for Venice and Santa Monica.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for taking the time out on this Thursday night. Thanks so much, the mayor of Santa Monica, Phil Brock.
Yeah, we could spend an hour talking about this.
Yeah,
It's
we
such
really
a big
could.
issue. Thank you.